great quality over there, bro. Yeah, thank you. Shout out. Yeah, go check that out at JAY two
No
underscores
way, you
nice.
promoting the
But,
Instagram.
wait, no, because
Crazy
my followers gonna have to understand, bro. Like, look,
that you
I
really
look,
be doing it.
bro. I
Okay,
be
you
really
got
You
followers.
looking good.
yeah,
DM.
Come on.
go, yeah. We could drop that too, but it's just, bro. I don't want them to think that this is what Jordan looks like, because this is a bad representation. This is 3 weeks with no cut, bro. Like hair all over the
Hey, I like that you cut your hair because you ain't know what you was doing with it, and it was getting real long. It was starting to look
bro.
like a clip. You had them
somebody,
inches, dog. You
somebody
had
called me Carrot Top, bro.
Oh man.
Yeah, bro. So I had to cut it out. What's going on, guys? What's happening in the neighborhood? I was about to lie. I was about to say big boy neighborhood. Let me not get copyright infringement, man. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Model Empowered Narratives podcast, where we work towards mastering empathetic navigation. I am a co-host, Jordan Flowers. And in the building, we got the whole gang, starting with my man, BJ Wilson, Jacob Hale, and Trey Mosley. How we doing today, guys?
Chilling, man. It's a great day to be alive.
Phenomenal.
Yo, how we doing? Look at, man. You
Doing
can
good,
tell our
man. Doing
personalities too. Look at him, Mr. Serious over there. I'm just playing. My boy having a nice old rough 40-hour work week, ain't he?
Yeah. Working, man.
Yep.
We own it.
You got him on 60
Hey,
hour
it
weeks.
is what it is.
They
Man.
said they got him on
Yeah.
60 hours. They got him
No, I
on
said
man.
you.
Oh, I got him on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
Overworking.
listen. Before we move into, let me go ahead and apologize to all three of these guys, because I do have some high demand sometimes, and I'll be giving it to them a little bit late, and they still make stuff happen. So we appreciate them. Yeah, we're gonna work on that next season. So I'm gonna take that one. I'm gonna take that one on the 10 and say thank you, guys. I'm gonna be better. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be better.
What a
Hey,
self-aware individual.
If you stop wearing that UNC stuff on the podcast, then we good.
Okay,
Listen, Jordan.
that's where we move on. Go ahead.
Listen, Jordan, you're Suge Knight. I'm Dr. Dre. Trey's Easy E.
That's the perfect
BJ
example for him. Definitely Easy.
BJ Snoop Dogg.
Wow.
No way BJ could be Cube. BJ Cube. BJ Cube.
Ice Cube. You know what? I like that too. You could be Ice Cube.
Yeah,
All
man.
right, bet.
But let's get into today.
I just have to go with someone likable. Like no one.
you gotta
hated
be
him.
somebody. You gotta be somebody. Yeah, because Ice Cube dropped no Vaseline. But we off topic. All right. Let me off topic.
Right.
Let's
Yeah,
get
we all
into-
stuck in a 360 deal over here.
Yeah, I'm sorry, bro. Yeah, y'all not getting out, man. This should have been records almost.
Oh,
But let's get into it, man. Let's get into it. Before we get into this episode, make sure that you guys subscribe, like, comment, share your favorite podcast. All episodes are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and here on the YouTube platform. Hit that bell button for notifications. Subscribe, all that stuff. It's gonna give us the encouragement. It's
free.
gonna give us
Might as well.
yeah, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? If y'all guys love our podcast, we need that energy so we can give you guys the content that you guys love and you guys so cherish us to do. So make sure to subscribe and like on all these platforms, and make sure to comment too. We love to hear back the feedback, some of the things you guys want from us, some of the things you guys like, and being able to incorporate that. But with that being said, before I get into talking about this season, we also want to give a partnership shout out to Mark Hicks and his company. Marcus, he does great things. He's been with us since day one. So get at him for all your exclusive sneaker needs, all his information for how to place orders, including his social media handles and website is down below in the video description. Get at him for he got it all. So get those sneaker orders in. And you know it's Christmas time too. Like, you know, this the time for holidays. So buy something for your lady, buy something for your mans. Actually, ladies, buy something for your mans. All right.
We need more around here. We need more. We need more of the gratification of the men.
Yeah, man. We'll buy something for your man. So that's especially with the topic we talk about. But before we get into today's topic, I really want to sit here and say, guys, we made it through season 2. How we feeling, bro? Like, I don't want to get into because we got an episode for that, but we here, bro. What's y'all initial thoughts, bro? Season 2.
Man, it was a grind. I ain't gonna lie. We grinded this one out. It was a whole lot of ups and downs. We grinded this one out.
Grind. Hell.
Yeah, man. It was a lot going on, but like we always say, you gotta build the plane as you flew it, and we've been soaring pretty well.
Absolutely. And lastly, the conductor, the one that has to deal with all the problems.
Big season of adjustments. Love to see how versatile the team is. We're adaptable. We get things done. So
Man,
I'm happy for the game.
Get done.
Man.
Yeah. We the get stuff done gang. I was gonna cuss there, but my mom watched this podcast, so I gotta keep that to low. So I gotta keep that to a low. But we want to get into today's episode. This is the season finale for us, episode 8 of season 2. And it's a special episode because it's the first episode of all 4 of us being together on this platform. So it's a special episode for me, but it's also a special episode because if you know me and you've heard the story, if you haven't already, check out what is Men. Healing for Men is very, very important for me, especially in my journey. So this topic being healing for men, call to action, right? Let me clear my throat. Jesus Christ, I'm getting choked up before we even get into a story. But let's get into it. So I want to start off with the big question when we're talking about this, right? So the healing definition is like the process of becoming sound or healthy again, right? But my question to you guys, and whoever wants to pick it up first, go ahead. But the question that I have for the question for dialogue is, what is the one thing that comes to mind that you can point out that holds us men back from either recognizing we need to do some healing or to taking the steps to heal from certain things?
I would definitely say that the big thing about us trying to heal as men is the feeling of like you have to be stoic, you have to be no emotions, like nothing affects you. You're always onto it, like you don't express your emotions, you just deal with your emotions internally. And I feel like that's the biggest problem with people trying to establish like what's going on in their life, going through the healing process, understanding that there's something wrong and that there's something that you still need to fix. Just because everyone always says like you're a man up, things like that nature. It's just always like you're not allowed to have those emotions, but you actually, like, everyone's allowed to have emotions. You don't have to just be a man. Like, it's okay to feel vulnerable.
Absolutely. And that vulnerability, and we'll get into a little bit into the detail, but that is a big thing, is just understanding that vulnerability can be a power for us as well. But just still breaking those stigmas. Obviously, we talk about that on the podcast. That's why I got started, is to model empower narratives. Literally, that's what it means, is to destigmatize some of these things. So I'll kick it to you, Hale. Like, what is the one thing that you could briefly touch on that you think holds us back as men from starting the healing process, or even recognizing that we need to partake in the healing process?
Yeah. So I really like what Trey touched on to start it off. There's definitely we mentioned this in actually our first season ever. Some of the issues with men coming together and kind of the stigmas of men and how that works out and things. So my angle on this is that the reason why, or what holds men back, is pride. There's just a lot of pride. There's a lot of men that are afraid to be vulnerable. And like we said, there's a lot of reasons why that happens. But in a general sense, when there's pride involved, people don't want to admit certain things. It blinds certain things. People don't want to be vulnerable. So because of that, a lot of your issues will never get addressed. And then it carries on over until it obviously hits that boiling point.
Absolutely. And you building on just the emphasis of what Trey is really talking about, and just in general, like you said, is we, like you said, we touched on this briefly in our first episode, was just about how pride and ego is the greatest thing that can happen to men, but it's our fatal flaw. In a sense, is, understanding that our pride and ego gets in the way of us getting and attaining certain things, but it also is the reason that we're great in a lot of things, is because we carry those things. But understanding how to maintain that, how to, suppress that to a certain degree, because you understand that obviously that those things cannot go when we're talking about growth, is that pride and ego. But that is a big hindrance in terms of recognizing that we need some healing done. And I'll go to you, BJ. What is it for you that you think just the one thing that holds us men back from healing or recognizing that we got some healing to do from certain situations?
Honestly, it's low-key history, a lot of throughout time, I guess you could say, a lot of our parents, a lot of our dads have experienced this thing where they're not shown or taught to, be not be compassionate, but be open to others, and that kind of gets passed down to us. And it's some of our mothers might have known that as well, and they might teach or pass that down to us as well. And so it's kind of just something that comes from the family aspect, in my opinion, at least, and it just gets passed down and gets passed down. So you got to be that one in your family to kind of break that cycle.
Absolutely. It's that almost like a generational curse type of thing in what you said, like, because you don't know what you don't know. And you getting into a little bit about how, how important it is, especially as we grow up, understanding that a lot of things that we were taught and having to unlearn a lot of things that we were taught and learn a lot of things that we weren't taught. But like you said, some of the things were passed on from our parents, our grandparents. So like you said, it's just recognizing that we have to be the ones that breaks those cycles, especially the cycles that's hindering us from moving forward. But I do want to get into the next subtopic that I want to talk about, because a part of healing is before you even heal from anything, you have to grieve, right? And there's a grieving process as well. So I want to talk about the 5 stages of grief. It's a psychological concept. My last one of the season, by the way, fellas. I know y'all happy about that. Like, man, this boy always coming with
about this one. I can ride with it.
Yeah, so my boys can rock out with this one. But you have to grieve. The old saying, you have to before you heal, you have to feel, right? And so going through the grieving process is super, super important. It's the only way to get to healing. But in terms of the stages of grief, right? So we got denial, we got anger, we got bargaining. So that's your what if stage, like making deals with yourself or a higher power. Like, what if it was me? What if I was there? Why shouldn't it, bargaining with yourself? And then we got depression. And the final thing being acceptance, coming to some type of acceptance with the grieving process or whatever you're grieving in that situation. So my next question for dialogue to you guys is, out of these 5 stages, which one would you say that you have found the most difficulty with in trying to get towards acceptance? And can you speak to it briefly? And I will go with, let me pick a hat out this. No, I'm just playing. Let me go with BJ. What is out of these 5 stages? What have you seen yourself have the most difficulty with in terms of getting hung up in the process?
So I feel like a lot of people would be bargaining. Feel like you can make some type of trade that something better should have happened. But for me, I feel like it's probably been denial. Example of that is I think it's 8th grade or 7th grade. My grandmother passed away. And, it was probably the first like close family death I really experienced. And it hurt for a while. And I was starting to accept it. And then I woke up from a nap like 2 weeks after it happened. And I couldn't believe it happened all of a sudden, all over again. And that's kind of been a theme throughout my life is I'll start to finally accept that something's happened. And then I'll wake up and it feels like it was just a dream. And I'll start wishing it was just a dream. And obviously it never is. And then you got to start that whole process over. So easily denial for me.
Denial. Absolutely.
And
what
do you think helped you through that denial though? Do you think there's anything that you did or anything like that actually helped you like get through the denial stage that you were stuck in? Because obviously you're a great person. Everybody knows that like you're not one to just always be down. So what do you think helps motivate you for everybody else to see you like that?
Well, I mean, this whole podcast this whole season is about self-awareness. I'm not good with denial at all right now. Like still, whenever I go through something hard, I still have times where I try to deny it and act like it didn't happen. I want to believe it was all just a dream or whatever. That's still something I'm working on to this day. But in terms of being happy, me, Trey, and Jordan, we all had the same coach, Coach Baz. He always gives us a story about the one guy who chose, basically he was about to die and he chose to live, is basically what the story is. Mm-hmm. And he ends that story by saying, you can choose to be happy. So me choosing to be happy every day and not being down on myself is really what helps me get in a positive mood.
Absolutely. That's a great question. And I'll kick it to you, Trey, because obviously you got to, we'll get into how these things have pushed us forward and propelled us forward. But how is it for you, hearing from BJ and that, is that like we are all, especially in this process, and I want to do, I think this is a perfect time to point this out, is within these 5 stages, you could bounce around. right? It's not like you got to be stuck in one, you know what I'm saying? So you can bounce around and before you get to acceptance. But for you, Trey, what do you think is the one thing that you probably found yourself most caught up in terms of just the stages of grief?
I would say definitely anger for me through like all of the stages of grief is anger, just because of the fact that I would be mad. Like another instance, like BJ brought up, is that how he was talked about how his grandma passed away. My grandma passed away when I was at school, and she was very near and dear to me. And I have a lot of tattoos, but I have this one that's always been with me. Just this one. It's two F's, and it stands for Fancy Forever. That was her nickname. But I was just so angry because I felt like I was robbed of being able to be around her, because I only saw her on football games, and everybody else was always around her constantly, and they were always allowed to be around her just because they were there, and she always came to everything, like all my little brother's games, all my cousins' games. Like she was always all about family and all, because she was retired, so she always had that time to spend with everybody. And I felt like I was robbed of that time being around her just because I was so far away. And I was angry about that.
So I do got a question for you. In terms of your anger, did you, and maybe I got the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Did you grow an anger and a resentment towards God at that time?
I think at first I did, but then I realized like it wasn't even, it was just her time. Like it was certain things happened, and like everything happens for a reason. And I feel like that actually, like, just me thinking about it, like actually led me towards being more faith driven, and like starting to pray a lot more. And like even times now, like I'll pray, like I had big interviews last couple of weeks, then I'd be praying like towards God, but I was also like talking to my grandma through while I was praying to God. And I feel like that anger and that like me seeing that low point in my life to where I was second guessing myself and second guessing God, it also helped me strengthen my belief in God, and it helped me drive myself to start praying more and start like digging into the like nitty gritty of things, and like being able to realize like no matter what happens, like he will help you no matter what. And there's always this saying that they say is that God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers. And I truthfully do believe that. And I like just through that whole experience, it really made me truly realize like everything happens for a reason, and it might not be in your plan, but his plan was already set, and he's trying to guide you. And maybe you weren't ready for the gifts that were given at that time, but eventually he will give you something that prospers, and that everything will happen out the way that you wanted it to, if or even better.
And the one thing too that I would add to both y'all stories, and the one thing just on the concept of death, I ain't forget about you, Hell, coming right to you. Is the fact that, but we were born to die, you know what I'm saying? And it's like a harsh reality, and I understand how death is kind of looked upon, because it is like somebody you losing, like, you know what I'm saying? In terms of like, yeah, we gain an angel and stuff like that, but the physical being, I resonate with that. Obviously, with even my homeboy passing, y'all know it was the anniversary of him yesterday, and just going through that grieving, I can talk about that for days in terms of the grieving process with that, and I'll get into that a little bit later in the episode. But we were born to die, and it goes to show you, but this is temporary. Our life is very temporary, and we live in on borrowed time. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody got a due date. My favorite saying my dad used to say to me is, you know how everybody says like that tomorrow's not promised? Mm-hmm. My dad kind of flipped it and was like, nah, tomorrow is promised, just not for everybody. Like it's gonna be a tomorrow whether you here or not. You know what I'm saying? And it just kind of put things a little bit more in perspective for me, is understanding that, bro, you living on borrowed time. You don't know when your due date is. Hence why I always show my now tattoo. Shout out to D-Lo. They can't even see it. This is nasty work. It says now for my for the viewers and for the listeners. Because
in the clock view.
So it's just about living in the moment and understanding whatever you want. You know what I'm saying? Go for it now. You don't always got to attain everything. You're never going to attain everything that you want, but at least trying to go for it now or starting the process. So with that being said, I told myself I'm going to shut it down and be more concise. So Hell, I'm coming to you, brother. In terms of the 5 stages of grief, what is something you found yourself being hung on or like having the most difficulty with?
You're trying to be concise, and then you throw it to probably the second worst person when it comes to trying to make something short and
Absolutely.
concise. So it's a
It's all good, brother.
dynamic duo for sure. Um, I don't. I wouldn't say I have a specific one. Maybe you can tailor it to a specific one, or it loosely follows one or two. But personally, for me, I'm a big what if guy. What if this happened? What if this didn't happen? Right.
Mhm.
So this was a very big impact on my life. And the more and more I grow and mature and go through things, the more I can look back and realize how big of an impact on it in my life. But to share with you guys, it's no secret to any of my friends, but my parents are divorced, and not only are they divorced, they found a way to both get remarried and then get re-divorced. But more importantly, I'm going to focus on the first one since they were both my biological parents, and
Right.
I think most kids really go through that now that I'm maturing. It's just that what if? It's that what if my parents did stay together? What could I have done? Even though I was young, what could I have done to make it not happen? What would our life be if that never happened? And um, there's a lot of there's a lot that forms into anger with that. At times, especially when you're a kid, there's certain things that you do where you almost kind of pin the parents against each other. You almost put your parents in a situation where they have to fight for your love to a degree. And um, I remember my uncle. My uncle was a very prominent person in my life. Shout out to him. Um, I was blessed with many role models growing up, and he was definitely one of them. Even though he never had kids, he always treated us like his own kids. And one of the best advice he ever gave me, he sat me down one day because I was really mad, something to do with my parents. But he could kind of tell it was just somewhat of the situation hitting me. And basically, what he told me is that listen, at the end of the day, no matter what your parents do, your parents are either going to teach you what you should do or what you shouldn't do. And it doesn't matter how they teach it to you, but that's what you're going to learn. So as you grow
Good
older,
advice.
when you look back at what your parents did, when you have your own kids, you're going to look at my parents did this. I know I need to do that. My parents did this. I know I should never do that, because I
Right.
know what it's like to be in the kids' role. And just having those role models and people around like that really helps put things in perspective because it's always different with everyone. It's tailored
Right.
to everyone, even though it's a very common thing. I think almost all of my friends are actually hurt. Their parents are divorced. There's only a small amount. Um, and again, it all hit us differently, but we all do find it find healing in talking about it, when we have the chance and when we have the opportunity to. So definitely for me, yeah, the what ifs were definitely something that I always try to work on and try to be better at because at the end of the day,
You
hindsight's
don't know.
2020. You can always look back and say something's good, something's bad, but gotta live in the
Absolutely.
moment.
Absolutely. And before we move on, bro, a couple things I want to talk about. One, in terms of what I heard from you in terms of the what ifs, that's classical bargaining. That's classical bargaining. I and I wasn't gonna talk about it, but something in me is telling me that I should say something because um it's the same thing I think as children sometimes when things don't work out with our parents if you're in that type of situation. And that's not for everybody, but kids that are in a situation, and I was in that situation as well. We put it on ourselves that we were the dividing factor. Even if it had nothing to do with us, even if it was before us, it was after us, we take that burden on, right? And something that resonated with me, hell, and what you said is like early on, bro, like for me, I look like my father. I wanted to be just like my father, and we have a great relationship. That's not what I'm saying. But since he wasn't in the house, like I always felt like something, not for him, but just in terms of just my parents not working. I was like, dang, did it have something to do with me? Even though it had nothing to do with me, I kind of like took that on as a kid. Like you ain't really say nothing, You know what I'm saying? You wasn't gonna tell your parents or nothing like that, but I always felt that way where it was like, dang, did I have something to do with it? Like, and I was always trying to prove something. But I will say to you in terms of my advice, and I'm trying to keep this as very brief. I promise y'all. Is my point really is that what I realized is I don't know if I would be the man I am today if I had my father in the house, because I was chasing something. Obviously, he a part of my life, but like I was around my mom, my sister, I was around all women, and so like I was pushing to be the best man available and best man possible for myself. But yeah, a person I had role models, but like it was still me in the house. So I think that added to the drive. Almost was being the only male in the house. I wanted to kind of take on that burden, and I think it made me the man I am today. So I do feel for you in that regards, bro. I know exactly where you're coming from, but we will talk about that. That's definitely a episode we got to touch on in terms of coming from those type of households or single parent households. That's an important one. But for the sake of conversation and for the sake of me keeping promises to my group, we're gonna move on to our friends, bro. And this is a big one. We all have some friends whom we know who have gone through some tough times and had some traumatic events take place in their lives, right? We all know some people that just like didn't get the luck of the draw, bro. Like it just seems like a lot of bad things have occurred, or they just might have had a lot of misfortune that had nothing to do with them, and that has caused them harm or caused them stress or caused them a lot of grief. And so my next question to y'all, and I'll go to Trey first, is do you have friends that you know who haven't addressed certain circumstances or situations, or you feel like they haven't addressed it rather, and they didn't heal properly, and maybe it has changed them? And how did you see that those situations or circumstances affected them?
I would definitely say that I have a lot of different friends, so I can say that I have people that have had traumatic instances and they have fixed what happened. And then I also have friends that have traumatic instances and didn't do anything about it. And I would say that people that didn't do anything about it, you can definitely notice their characteristics change. It's just like, I feel like I have one friend for sure that I'm thinking about that it's just, he's more aggressive now and is just quick to snap off. And like the thing that happened to him, it was very traumatic. And I felt like it hurt everybody that happened to him. And he was in a really bad car accident. And I feel like, yes, he is like that person I know and love, and I will always love him because that is my brother. And I've been through the worst of the worst with him, but I feel like it changed him as a person to the point to where he's not even the same person he was, which not saying that everybody has to be the same, right? But it's like, you can easily tell that he's quickly triggered and he's quick to snap, and just no matter what, it's like it's the littlest thing can happen, but it's like, it just flips a switch with him and he's just on and on and on it. And it's like, I even put myself as a fault because I particularly haven't really addressed the problem, but I wouldn't even say it's a problem. I haven't addressed like the mood changes that he has. And like, we've talked about it before, but I haven't been the person to like say like, maybe like I would go with you and we can go find you some help, or we should go do something about the circumstances that have happened to you, because they were unfortunate and it was a bad experience for him, family, all of us. And it's just a hard situation because I don't really particularly know how to approach it. But I would definitely say that it has changed him, and I still am working on how I should do it, which he's gotten better as time has went on. But like at first it was really bad and I just didn't know what to say, just because it was such a sensitive situation and there was a lot going on.
You ain't lying, brother. You almost spoke into my soul. I'm gonna get into my story a little bit later, but bro, that's a definitely part of how do you, it's hard, especially with something traumatic happening that has nothing to do with them, particularly their actions. How do you address that without coming off like you stepping on toes? How do you?
You muted yourself.
You're good. He's coming off as a little bit mute. All right. Well,
yeah. No.
Why don't you go?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Good. All right.
Yeah, we're good.
Got to hop in there.
we had to hop in there, bro. Just keep that a part of it, bro. They gonna see the mistakes, bro. But no, Trey. Getting back to what Trey was saying, but that just goes to show you, bro, like how much we really, really go through, and how do you really address that with somebody you love without making them feel a certain type of way. And that's a skill, and that's hard to really, really do. So I'm with you there. So I'll kick it to BJ, bro. With that same question, have you seen some type of situation or circumstance happen to your friend and how it has affected them? And can you briefly touch on that?
Yeah. So I've had lots of things happen to friends, like Trey said. And, some things you might think are smaller when you're looking at it from the outside, but when it happens to that person, it's a little bit bigger. I had a friend who got injured during the football season. Obviously, we've all been injured. It sucks. It really hurts. You feel like you can't do anything to help your team. And I had one friend who got injured like in the middle of the season, and it didn't really seem like it was bothering him too much. He kind of seemed nonchalant about it, kind of seemed like he didn't care. And that's one of the things you got to watch out for is people who are really good at hiding stuff. And if they just let it eat them alive, they don't ever ask for help. That's not healthy at all, at least in my opinion. I don't think it's healthy. Asking for help is great. But so he was just letting it eat himself up, and he wasn't telling anybody about it. And then one night he was under the influence of alcohol. And it was me, one of our other friends, and him, and he finally just let it out that he was in pain. He felt helpless, and he felt like this was the one time that just everything was going wrong in his life. And so that's kind of how I see it affecting people, is it gets them to that point where they snap and they bawl their eyes out, and that's okay. It's okay to be emotional and show your true colors, but it just was painful for me to not really notice what was going on with him and know that he was going through that pain. So just to see my boy down and out like that it was rough.
Man. This is probably about to be the first time Jordan tearing up on the podcast on live. Because BJ, what you speaking to is something that we all have kind of, and it's hard, bro, because in a way, it's like, it's like you kind of put that blame on yourself, bro. Like, dang, like I should have noticed, or why don't I understand this, or how did I not see this? Before I go to you, Hell, bro, I want to piggyback off of his story with my own story of obviously my homeboy Ramsey. It's the biggest reason I got into psychology, biggest reason I got into this field. Yesterday was his 6-year anniversary of his death, bro. I even got his mural. If you know me, his mural is right behind my computer. The biggest influence on my life outside of my family. And I was talking to my sister yesterday, man. I think I got so many tears also. But what resonated with me in that, BJ, is because I got into this field with him. And then if you know his story, long story short, my brother committed suicide some years back, 6 years ago. And that was the first time that I had in my life has lost somebody to suicide. And that was the first time in my life where I was dealing with somebody that had died. And I couldn't point to definitively, this is why. It wasn't no note or nothing like that. So for the longest, bro, it ate me up. Like it still does, bro. Y'all should have seen me last night. I was a mess. Because now that I got into this field because of him, you know what I'm saying? I know what I know. I'm so driven because of him. Like I want to save somebody else's Ramsey. Like that was the initial drive for all of this. I want y'all to know that. Like I wanted to save everybody from themselves because my brother couldn't live. And now knowing what I know, BJ, I was talking to my sister about this last night. It's like, how did I not know? Like, how did I not see the signs? Like, why did I not make him feel like he could come to me? Like, was there more I could have done? And those questions can never be answered. And you understand that people going to do what they, want to, feel like they need to do. But just understanding that my brother was in pain and I didn't see it, or he hid it well, and putting a lot of guilt and shame on myself. And it's something that if we talk about mom and pop, if we talking about something I'm still working through, that's something that I'm still healing from. Is that situation, but it has propelled me forward in terms of like what I'm doing. So I feel for you there, brother. I think a lot of us put a lot on our plate in terms of guilt and shame when we feel like we can't do anything and we should have been better, but we got to understand that we try our best. We try our best, and we have to live with that and live with God's will for people's lives. And it's a hard pill to swallow, man, and still doesn't make sense to me. But I'm glad I'm working on God's timing and not mine, because because that's what it is. He's not old to me. Like, he gave us his years, and God said it's time for him to come back home, and I can't have any quarrels with that, right? So I feel for you there. So Hale, I'll kick it to you. Now we getting into some heavy stuff. Hale, do you have a friend
Yeah.
that was in a situation? It don't got to be that deep, or even if it is that deep, that you understand that they hadn't healed from a lot of things that went on in their lives.
I'll just say that was very powerful to start off. For all of you guys, just so you guys understand, it's very easy just to point out the negative, but beyond the realm of the podcast, just us in general, you never know how much positive impact you've given out. So I just
Right.
want you to keep that in mind. You never know, like, you never know what your friends are going through. You never know what people are going through. You never know what you being there or what you could have said at the, time of the moment, what that could have done to the other person, even if it's small or insignificant. So I just want you guys to remember that, like, at times it's easy to beat yourself up, but also you never know how much of the good stuff that you've done or that you've said, and
Absolutely.
how that has affected people in the positive. And going with my story, one of my best friends in high school, it was unfortunate what happened to him in this family situation, but basically his dad suffered a really bad stroke, and it was just a tough time because we were right in the middle of track season, a lot of things going right for him, for the team, everything, and then that happens, right? So the answer is I'm his best friend. So obviously I'm the one that's there to console him and stuff. And
Right.
to a degree, yeah, but we were young and we were both guys, we were never taught how to communicate in that way. So looking back, I do think about that. I wish I was more upfront with him, knowing the information that I do now. But at the same time, um, there is a certain type of normalcy that I created without even knowing about it. And it's something that we talked about at some point later on, is that maybe I wasn't there to be like, how are you today? Let's sit down and talk, right? But the fact that he knew whenever school ended, he'd go into track practice. I was there. Everyone was there. We're going to work out. We're going to have fun. I'm going to crack a bunch of jokes and stuff. That in
Right.
and of itself was healing for him during that time, because when he went home, reality always set in for him on what was going on in the situation. So it's just amazing because, again, I never knew that. And then, I look back and I feel bad about it because I was always like, I wish I did more. But at the same time, I may have did way more than I could have done if I would have sat down and talked to him, because to a degree I created that normalcy for him. So I just want anyone to also think about that as also a possibility, that it is great to sit down and have those serious conversations, but sometimes you're put in there to play a different role, and that's okay. Sometimes you're not going to be the serious guy. You're going to have to be the fun guy. Sometimes you're going to have to be the different guy that brings a different perspective, to take him out of reality for a little bit, because that's what some people need sometimes. So
Absolutely.
I would just say that's just something that I want to leave you guys with, something that you should think about.
Do you
That's
think there was
powerful.
ever a time that you ever like felt like this was my aha moment for like that situation as you were talking about? It's like there was something that happened to you, or there was some realization you came to where like maybe it just wasn't you who was supposed to be the serious person, or maybe it wasn't you who was supposed to be the difference maker.
Yeah, in that situation, there was actually a conversation at some point where his girlfriend at the time and my friends, and which is also his friends, we kind of talked about it. And from the sound of it, his girlfriend was more of that type of support, which, again, being men, that's kind of what we were taught, with having a significant other like that. It's that's the
Right.
person you go to, right? So that's where he felt most comfortable being vulnerable in that sense, right? So during those conversations, that's kind of where I started to put it together. It's like, okay, well, I'm just gonna make sure, like, not overdo my part, of course, like don't fake it, but I just want to make sure that when he's with me, it's just normal. We're just gonna talk about normal things, sports, whatever, and then when he's willing to, which he did at times, he'll sit me down and we'll have a real conversation, and he'll say what he needs to say to me, essentially.
That, and I want to commend you for that, brother, because people don't know how important of a skill that is. And that's a skill that you got to develop. So that was a great question, Trey. Is understanding that how to not be overbearing. You know what I'm saying? That understanding of like there's certain things that like that you can say or you should say, but there's a time and a place for them. And sometimes they don't want that self-pity. Sometimes they don't want that like every time I listen or I'm talking to you, like it's always like, what's wrong with you, bro? Like, or it feel like I'm making you feel like something is wrong with your situation. You know what I'm saying? So it's definitely an escape in a sense. So letting them open up to you is an important skill. And I think that we have to hone those skills, but it's important that sometimes it is, you got to be the normal one. Sometimes it is, you got to be the fun one. Sometimes it don't have to be as very serious because that can add the added pressure. Like, hey, bro, like I'm already dealing with a lot. Like, I don't need you to feel like, you know what I'm saying? Cause they're not ready for that yet. So I commend you for that. Any other thoughts with that?
I would definitely say that like this is for anybody. Like, what do you think is a time where you realized that you were being too overbearing on someone, or you feel like you were pushing for something that they weren't ready for? And how did you like change the scenario, like flip the script and try to flip into that fun guy role, like how Hale was talking about through his experience?
Anybody want to start?
Go ahead, dive in there.
I got it.
Okay.
You good. I'm gonna take it then. You know, I didn't want to go with the man that talk it forever first. But no, I'm dealing with something like that today. You know what I'm saying? Like what's so crazy about this trade, bro, is I have a homegirl. Like I said, we don't say no names, that was going through some very serious things, bro. That happened to her. But at the time of my life, I wasn't there to give the best advice. Like low-key, you know, the quote unquote therapist friend that everybody has. Well, literally, because I'm in the field. Like it ain't no quote unquote.
It's literally,
it's literally that. So,
yeah.
you know, but she was going through some serious stuff. But I wasn't in the right place mentally, bro. And so the one thing that was happening was a lot of trauma dumping, which that's a whole different episode. But the gist of the story, what I was trying to say is that like you got to understand just by your presence, bro. Sometimes that's the best thing to be around, like being that safe space. We talk about safe space. What a safe space really is like, can I go be around Hale, BJ, and Trey and feel like I can be cool with being myself and that's okay with them? That's what a safe space is. It ain't just about talking. It's like, can I go be my normal self, like what I feel comfortable with, and be authentic, good or bad, and I don't feel like I'm being judged in here. And so being that safe space was important, just to like, sometimes I can't offer you advice. I'm not in the best place to give you advice, but I'm here for you. And I think that presence alone for people that know that you authentic and genuine is something that will almost not take away their situation, but it'll resonate with them in a way like, I know they can't help me fully, but I know they support me fully. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of the safe space, you know, me and Trey had a pretty serious situation. I want to say it's about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago now. Mm-hmm. Where one of our friends was going through a really rough patch in life. And our solution to that was that safe space. It was, okay, we're going back to the room. You come with us. We're all just going to chill, watch a movie.
And hang out. We were just there.
Yep, just there.
We didn't even talk about the situation. We were just solely just saying, okay, we're here for you and you're not going to be alone while you're going through this tough time. We didn't even bring it up after it happened. We dealt with that situation and then we were just like, all right, we just finna kick it. Like, we're going to make you feel better just because we know that you had a low point and we wanted to help you out.
Absolutely. And anything on that, Hill, in terms of safe space, or just back to Trey's question?
I guess with Trey's question, the only thing I would add, because I feel like I kind of answered it. So the only thing else I would add is this is just my personal experience. I know it varies, but I guess a good observation that I've noticed is that whenever it's an issue that is ongoing, still happening, it's a continuous stretch, it's more than likely that you're going to turn yourself into the safe space. Like you're going to talk, you're going to have serious conversations, but for the most part, you're probably going to end up turning into the safe space if the problem is an ongoing issue. And then versus when it just happened, bang, right there, short issue. Now it's done. Now you have to live with it and grief and everything. That's more of when, you sit down with the person, have that personal conversation and everything like that. And that's just my personal observation when it comes to situations like that. But again, it varies. It's just something that I tend to notice when it comes to supporting my friends and when issues arise.
That's a great observation. And like I said, it's just really about what we all speaking to essentially. It's just reading the room. You know what I'm saying? Reading the room, knowing when to go in and say something, knowing when to not say something, knowing when to bring it up, knowing when, hey, bro, like I just need this, like Hale said, like Trey and BJ talking about with their friend. Hey, bro, I just know, like, just show me that you there, bro. Like, let's just go, let me be with you, bro. Let's call it for what it is. Let me stop beating around the bush. Let me just be with you, bro, because I feel safe enough to come around and be around my brother where I know it's all genuine love. Let me stop making it so weird. That's what we talking about, is destigmatizing these things, right? Let me go be around my brothers, bro, because they make me feel safe. So that's all we speaking to. But I would, just for the sake of time, I do want to move along with this conversation. Great convo. We can go on for 2 hours. If you let me, you know dang well we would. But again, I got a promise to keep. So we're going to keep moving. But this is the big one. And this is why I saved it for last. I have a personal story with this that I'll tell myself. I tell myself. I tell myself the story every day. Tell our followers and listeners. But healing from relationships. And I don't want to get too much and too in depth with this all the way, because we can talk. I wanted to save this for a whole different episode down the road, because this can go on forever. But this one hits close to home for me as well, for all of us as men, although we don't often like to admit the impact that these intimate relationships had on us in both a negative and positive way, right? And speaking to a negative, though, because I do think that this is important to speak up on, is how men can very much well become codependent in any type of relationship that they have, a quality that we as in men cast off as a feminine trait that only women can develop it. So just talking about codependency, just as a definition, is an emotional behavioral condition that affects an individual's ability to have a healthy, mutually satisfying relationship, and it's often referred to as relationship addiction. So my final question for dialogue, because I know we're going to have a lot to say about this, and I have a lot to say about this. But since we're having an understanding that men can become codependent in relationships as well, can you identify how we as men show signs of becoming codependent in terms of behaviors or signs that we may show through our actions and or our thoughts?
Well, I'll go first. And I will go first and say that I feel like in high school, I had this really bad. I was codependent. I always felt like I always had to have a girl by my side, like no matter what. And it was to the point to where I didn't even realize if I truly actually had feelings for that girl, or if I was just doing it just because I felt like I needed somebody by my side. But I would always jump from girl to girl. And it wasn't even like that. It would be like 3-month stints, 5-month stints. But like I was all in on that girl and I was like, yeah, I got this. And then I would jump and then things wouldn't work out and I'd be like, yeah, I'm not really feeling her anymore. And then I would be quick to jump into that next relationship. And I really never gave myself that time to be like, hey, like, be alone. Like, you don't need a girl in your life. Like, you can just do things and not have a girl on you at all times. Like that, you not have that partner at all times. And I feel like that was something I really struggled with. And I feel like I never really realized that I struggled with that until I got to college. And like my friends would be like, would tell me there's a pattern. My mom, my family would tell me like, this is a pattern. Like you do this, like, and I would always deny. And I'd be like, nah, I really do like these girls. And not to say I didn't, I really truly did like a lot of the things and a lot of the girls that I was with and the things that we brought to each other. But I felt like I was always in the cycle of like 3 months to go by. Yeah, I don't really like her like I thought I did. I'm gonna go find somebody else instead of just really taking that time to actually be alone and not have a girl and to just work on my self-growth. And I feel like I didn't realize that, and I didn't try to do those things until I got to college. And I felt like at that point I was more backtracking instead of catching it when my friends, my family was telling me that was something that I was doing months, years before.
You know what the tricky thing about codependency is too, brother, is I keep saying brother like I'm Hulk Hogan. I need to get that out of my vocabulary, bro. That's so bad. Listen here, brother. The tricky thing, going back to my point, man, I go on too many tangents, but going back to my point, the tricky thing about codependency too is when you in it, you don't see it. You know, like the old saying, love is blind. Like when you in codependency, and listen, actually, let me put this camera on me, bro, before I move on, because I got a declaration to make. You are looking at former captain, corporal, and commander codependent right here. I mean, I was going into battle with my codependent shield. I mean, BJ, I know this ain't gonna come out for a couple weeks, so if we can maybe get a whole poster with the Captain America shield, because that's my favorite soldier, and I want commander, and this I'm gonna add this to my list of demands, but I want commander codependent, well, former commander codependent, because I was leading. Oh man, I was like Ulysses S. Grant. I mean, I was like George. I was like George Patton. I was going. Oh man, I was the codependent warrior. Oh man, I didn't know I had it though. My point is, Trey. Let me get back to being serious. Is you don't really see the codependency until you're out of it, and it sucks that within it you can't really see the signs. Mm-hmm. But it's definitely something that I think we got to catch, and something that we have to understand that our friends see a lot of things that we're blind to because we're in it. So seeing a fresh perspective outside of it, and it don't have to be anything, you know, you could take a lot of people's opinion with a grain of salt, but when you're in it, it's like impossible to see those type of signs. So getting off of my little joking tangent, that wasn't a joke. Actually, I really was commander codependent. That's not a joke, but I'll go to you, BJ. What in terms of my question, how do you think codependency shows up as, or is manifested as men that we don't really talk about or we don't really speak about?
That's a hard one for me. I genuinely, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like I'm not a codependent individual. And I say this for one reason, because I have people that have argued with me about this differently, and they see it from a different perspective. But I truly feel like at times I kind of crave being alone. Like I love being around people, but at a certain time my battery runs out. I just want to be by myself. And I feel like that's where I operate best, is when I'm by myself. So
living with you for 5 years, I can confirm I do not.
We got a confirmation. I got a confirmation.
Cool, because I have somebody that listens that's going to disagree, and that's okay.
Not at all. I think you're the farthest thing from it. And I've been with you. Lived with you.
Wasn't. Hey, Trey, I'm gonna say this. No, you wasn't a part of my army. Now I know the people that I know the people that was rolling with me. I know who was in the back with me in them trenches being codependent.
I went in the trenches with you.
Yeah, y'all wasn't in them codependent trenches like me, big dog. Y'all, hey, listen, bro, these streets is dirty. All right, that war was dirty. All right, so y'all don't want to be there. So be happy you ain't there, brother. And it's some nasty work that go on over there.
All right, well, I guess if I could chime in on this, I was definitely a part of that army. I was probably the Secretary of State or something like that.
Jesus Christ!
I was definitely a very high-ranking
member.
I was a very high-ranking member in that. Um, I will say though, I will say if we can be real, you know, there is codependency is natural because humans naturally long to be in a group or to
Right.
belong. All right.
Absolutely.
And
That's very true.
so to have codependency to a degree, it's not like you're the problem. That is a natural thing. It's more of what you're doing with this natural feeling and how is it affecting everything around you, you know? So I guess to move to my story, and me and Jordan have talked a very, 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 very long time about this.
Oh,
A
don't tell me. I
very
know who
long
it
time
is.
about
Do I know
this.
who it is? I'm not going.
I
We don't say
think
no names.
most people know who it is. Of course, we're not going to say names, but
Oh yeah,
um,
I know. Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
Trey
Go
and
ahead.
BJ don't know. There was a time where I was in a relationship in college, and how I am in relationships, to be general, is that I'm not the type of person to be in a relationship just to be in it. So when I am in a relationship, I really do see something, and I really um, find something special about the person. I just don't tend to date a lot of people. That's just how I was and how I've usually been. But yeah, that was just a very significant problem for me, was the codependency, and I just couldn't figure it out. And then obviously when the relationship ended up ending, that just put me in a very bad place. I couldn't figure out what my hold on the individual was, and I really couldn't figure out what I needed to do to move on. And it took me years and lots of conversations to really put it together and to figure out what was the problem. And what I found out, and what I would like to share to you guys and to the audience, and Jordan, I don't even think I ever told you about this, but um, a lot of people get don't ever get in a relationship to run away from something, basically.
Right.
And that's really what my issue was, is that the relationship wasn't bad. It's just more the fact of why I was in the relationship and what I was running away from and what I thought the relationship could solve. I'm here to tell you right now that your significant other, your girlfriend, your spouse, they are not qualified to be your therapist. We talk about self-awareness, we talk about support, all that stuff is great, but at some point you need to take it upon yourself to seek some type of professional help,
Right.
because
Absolutely.
at the end of the day, that's just a normal person. They have their own issues, they have their own struggles. So to try to throw all of your problems onto an individual who already has their own problems that they're dealing with, it's just very unreasonable. And with me, I think, Jordan, you were the one who first put it in my head, was it was just a very bad issue of belonging and the feeling of being alone. Um, I had great friends. I have a very large family, but with that being said, I still had a lot of times where I just felt like it was just me, in a bad way. You know, it's fine to be alone and to enjoy the comfort of it, but I just had that identity issue, to where it was like, what am I? What am I supposed to do? What am I without being next to this person? What am I without being in this sport? What am I without being in school, doing whatever? And I carried that with me through all of my relationships. And I can definitively say that was a major problem in the relationship, is that my expectations on how the relationship needed to go was so unrealistic, because what I wanted to happen was almost impossible to happen.
Hmm.
It was almost like I was trying to morph into the person while that other person was still its own person. So trying to put two people together, you know what I mean? And I would just say, for healing, for me and for anyone, you do have to understand that you need to be comfortable with being yourself. You need to be comfortable with who you are, and what you're about, before you decide to take that step forward and to be in a relationship with another person. Because that's all it is. Being in a relationship is just coexisting with each other. It's not one person becoming the other person or anything like that. That's where you get the toxic. That's where you get the unhealthy dynamics and things. But I've I actually don't have a great way to end it. It's just uh, that was just a really tough thing that I knew that I had to sit back and actually go through and eventually heal from. And again, wouldn't be without the great support that I had that was able to listen to me and help me see things that I guess I wasn't looking for.
Absolutely, bro. And that leads into that was a powerful story on how, and I gotta commend you guys, bro, before I get into my story. And then after my story, we're gonna get into closing remarks, because for the third time I'm gonna say I got a promise to keep. So with that though, bro, is it's I want to commend y'all for being so open and being so vulnerable, bro. Somebody came up to me and was like, bro, like, do you understand, bro, at the young age that we putting out stuff, bro, that's gonna live forever. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's power and vulnerability, and a lot of stuff that we share. Like, obviously you ain't gonna tell everything, and you know what I'm saying? More people are more open with other people, whatever the case may be. But for y'all to come on here, bro, and to add your own struggles, bro, and to understand that there's a possibility that you can be judged, but understanding that your mission and our mission collectively is bigger than that, bro, I commend y'all for that, because that's what this is all about. So just to get into my story, bro, and let me preface this before I get into it, bro. I joke a lot, but in the midst of it, none of this was funny. Like, it was very, very serious. And Hell can attest to this. Shay can attest to this. June, the people that live with me. I'm not gonna get into all the details because it's a little too detailed. But I'll go with this. Is that in terms of codependency for me, bro? I knew that, and I had one very serious girlfriend. I had her for 4.5 years, and relationship was really going great. But I started to see faults within myself that was kind of affecting the relationships. Hence why I talk about the codependency and how it's shown by men. I think one of the signs that I started to recognize, and it sucked because it was kind of later on down the road, is that I was hurting this girl because I was being very possessive. And I think sometimes as men, like, we want to be controlling. We want to feel that sense of security. And I realized that because I had some insecurities within myself. I had a lot, not a some. I had a whole backpack full of them, of insecurities that I wanted her to and I expected her to fulfill for me. And so for me, like, I started to be very possessive. I started to get very angry. I was being very unreasonable in the moment. Like, I thought the controlling behavior was just the action per se. It don't condone the actions that I was partaking in. I mean, I did a lot of wrong, but and it doesn't make anything right, nothing egregious or nothing, but just to move forward is just like, I didn't realize the codependency until, like I said, I was out of it. Right, it was 4.5 years. Just like the first woman I'm talking about. This a woman that I never even told my mom some of this stuff. This talking about the closest woman to me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, she know more about me than anybody knew. Like, it was that type of safe space. So to remove that out of my life, and I knew that it was what it really was a manifestation of a problem that I always knew I had. And that was an identity issue. I was very insecure with myself. I knew I had a lot of feminine qualities because I grew up around all women that I hated about myself. I hated my last name because I had feminine qualities. So in a lot of ways, football provided a type of shield for me to where I can come off. Not only was I good at it, but it also provided me with the love, support, and the image of me being tougher than what I really was. And in her case, she also provided me with a sense of security that I never had within myself. And until she was gone, bro, it was the memories, the communication, the person who it was. Yeah, that hurt a lot. But what I wish y'all got to see, Trey and BJ, bro, the spiral that I was on. And Hell can attest to this, bro. Like, it was nasty. Like, we were talking about suicidal ideations, bro. Hell remembers I wasn't eating. I was locking myself in the room for 3 days and 4 days at a time. Like, it was bad. And I was reeling, bro. I was trying to go through, and what I was trying to do was I was trying to replace her with all these different type of women, not in the sense of just being romantic, but I just needed somebody there. Like I was panicking, like I needed somebody, and it was all stemming from I just didn't have a sense of security within myself. And I think with that codependency, bro, is I expected so much out of her that wasn't her fault. It wasn't her job to be that for me. And yeah, we were young, and it's a lot of other factors into it. But the fact of the matter is, to wrap up the story, is like, especially for as men, we don't think that we can become codependent. Yes, we can. Yes, we can, bro. Like it was some things that I never thought I would have, you know what I'm saying, thought or did, or like how far I took it. And so it's powerful for me to be able to be around y'all. Like it makes it easier that y'all were able to share your story so I could share mine. But the fact of the matter is, bro, I'ma just end it like this, man. I didn't cuss this time, mom. So I'm gonna have to use a cuss word right here. Uh it was the first time, bro, that I think her leaving and understanding the codependency and her not being there with me anymore and our relationship being broken was like, Jordan, you're fucking hurt. That's what it is, bro. You fucking hurt. All right. Like you're hurt. You're upset. Like you can't run away from it. Like I had to stop minimizing it, bro. Like I'm sick. I was so sick of my own shit. And I'm getting a little bit upset because I was so sick of my own shit to the fact that it was like, bro, you upset, bro. Just be upset. Like it's okay to cry, bro. This hurts you deeply. Like go through that whole range of emotion, bro. Like, and I just felt like I never had that. I never been able to be to have that type of environment where I felt like I was safe to be that hurt person that I really was and had been my whole entire life. So I was dealing with 18, 19 years of hurt and it was just bottled up. And just to wrap my story up with the codependency part is just that it happens to us, man, quite often than we like to admit it. But and it's shown in different ways. It's shown through anger. It's shown through possessiveness. It's shown through controlling behaviors, just like I did. But we have to find ways of unlearning some of these behaviors. We have to find ways of healthily living. We have to find healthy relationships and doing our part to understand what real healthy love is, and not just a romantic relationship, but any relationship. So in terms of that, I didn't cry this time. I was gonna cry. I thought I was gonna cry, but I think I got a lot of crying out yesterday. So I'm proud of myself on that standpoint. It's good to cry too. But let's get into closing remarks. And how I want to do these closing remarks, fellas, because this is the season finale and I want to end on something positive. It is modeling empowered narratives, and we're trying to destigmatize a lot of these narratives, talking about, you know, men's mental health and mental health just in general. What is one thing, and I will go with BJ first. I want one piece of advice for our fans, our listeners, for our men, because this is Healing for Men, the episode. What is a piece of advice in terms of a person that's going through something and looking to heal, or in the middle of a process of healing? Or do you have any words of encouragement for that person that may be listening?
Talk to somebody, seek help. You know, I had a similar situation to you where I went through a very long-term relationship. And then when I got out of it, initially I was really down bad. I wasn't talking to anybody about it. I was just kind of simmering, just letting stuff build up. It was about like a week later where I finally realized I need to talk to somebody. I can't just keep doing this. And that's something I probably needed my entire majority of my life. I used to go to therapy when I was younger, and I stopped when I got to high school. It probably would have helped me throughout high school. It definitely would have helped me through college. And when I started going through therapy during the summer, it really helped me. So just don't feel like you can't go reach out to anybody. Like that doesn't make you a man. If anything, admitting that you have a problem makes you more of a man. So just feel free to reach out. And honestly, I mean, you can find all our social media handles. Reach out to one of us. I'm
Absolutely.
Sure every one of us will respond. I know I will. So
absolutely. Hale?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely don't be afraid to reach out, for sure. We would like that. That'd be great. And having this discussion again, we want to create a community with this. This isn't just about us just talking, you know. I would say with everything we say, one point that I did realize that I do want to make clear is that we're not here to point the finger at anyone. All right. How we talked about how sad we are, how hurt we are of the situation and stuff. I'm not in the mindset that now we should just like hate all women or something like that. I do not believe in that mindset, or I should never be in a relationship again. I just don't think that's a great mindset for any person to have, regardless of the experience that they have. And to add on to that, the most important thing that you can do is for you to take accountability. If there's one thing, honestly, if there's one thing that we could pull from this entire season of self awareness that we just spent an entire year putting together through the ups and downs and everything, there's one thing that we can tie this all together with is that you are in control of your own life. All right.
Absolutely.
It is up to you. It is up to you to wake up every day and decide what you want out of this life and what you want to do and when you want to do it. And the more that you believe in that, the more that you would accomplish with what you would like to do. The last thing I really want to say about that is just that, again, it is about you. And it's only about you. There's no victims here. All right. No matter
Absolutely.
what can happen, no matter what you feel like it's your fault, what's not your fault, you are in charge for what happens in your life. Take that responsibility, take that accountability, and move forward with that. Your biggest roadblock is going to be your own self telling you that you can't do it. That's going to be your biggest roadblock. I guarantee it. Break through that mental barrier. However it is, we gave you so many solutions through this entire season of things that you can do, different ideologies, different opinions. Do what you need to do so you can start moving forward into your life.
Absolutely. That's a great piece of advice. Trey, go to you.
I would say my wrap up for the whole season really is that be cognizant of your downfalls. Like, try to really stretch out and find that self-awareness, find those niches that you might have that might not be valuable traits or just things like that. Just really self-reflect on yourself and the things that you're doing, in your life, your career path, your friends you hang around with, the things that you are doing outside of everything, and be able to be comfortable with being alone. And it's okay to be alone is my biggest thing that I would say throughout this whole season and the wrap up of everything. It's okay to be alone, and it's okay for things to not work out.
Oh, you just spoke to my soul. Yeah, bro, everything is not I don't know what that little jig was, bro. God, I play too much, man. I'm playing
I
entirely
kind of
too much.
liked it.
You liked it? Appreciate you, bro. But my closing remark would be, Trey, like you said, bro, everything is not supposed to last forever. The one thing I've learned in life too, and just as my piece of advice as well, is, bro, just being in the moment and seeing people as an experience and seeing this life as an experience more than a possession. Like, experience people rather than just what can they do for me. Like, just actually go learn that person, bro. And I understand we always want to hang on to people, but sometimes people are experiencing, that's okay. Like Trey said, that's okay that's a person, that's an experience. And there's a lot that you can learn from that. And my piece of advice for us men in particular is to understand that we got to be able to create the community, because we could sit here all day and talk about what the individual person can do. And it does fall on the individual, but why we all men don't do it is because we don't all feel like we safe enough, or we don't want to feel judged, bro. Like, that's what it is, straight up. Like, we don't want to be the soft guy. We don't want to be judged. So we as men, again, going back to our name, modeling power narratives, have to create a community to where if our brother is hurt, our brother can come down and say he hurt and not feel like he gonna get judged. And we got to make them not only know that, but we got to make us men feel like they could come be around us and be authentic. They ain't got to minimize it. They ain't got to make it look sexy. They ain't got to tailor it. They ain't got to be like, hey, bro, this don't really bother you. No, bro, it bother you a lot. Let's talk about it. I'm with you, brother. Like, I love you. Like, we got to be more open to doing that. And that's going to be the biggest breakthrough, is us starting at a community level, recognizing what we could do as the I, but we got to make people feel like they are safe enough to even be in our presence enough to be not judged and be themselves. So in wrapping this all up, we want to thank you guys for this ride with season 2. Make sure, like I said, to like, share, comment, turn your notifications on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. I'm coming up on the 115 mark, so I got to make that promise happen. And just a little nugget, if you already made it to 114 and you already made it to like the end of this episode, a little nugget for you is your boys are getting back together this weekend, and we'll have a little season recap and a lot more in store. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? We got a lot more stuff. Hey, what's Trey saying? We gonna incorporate some sayings next season. You dig? You know, you dig? Yeah. So we gonna incorporate that. But we appreciate all the love, support, bro, and just continue to be on this journey with us, because I think these are conversations that we need to have. And just like I said, to wrap this all up, the more we talk about it as 4, it helps us. But not only do it help other people, but the more we talk about it, it's helping us get it off our chest and heal from these things, because these are lifelong things that we heal from. So alrighty, with that being said, we appreciate the journey, and this has been a great season for us, and we look forward to you guys support things. Absolutely.
And they had offered me earlier, and this all happened like within an hour span, and it was the craziest time of my life.
He felt like he was on
the world, bro.
Felt like he was on commitment day again, bro. You had hats.
Yeah,
hats lined up.
And they was asking me, they was like, "Are you ready to?" I was like, "Can I get a couple of days or something?"
You know what's so sucky? For us too, bro, as we growing up, bro, I think also like this is the first time where I realized that like with business deals, bro, like, and obviously it just depends on if you got leverage or not. But like they don't give you that many days to like think about a decision.
Like this is a fat life decision, and they wanted me to do it in 3 days or less. Like, bro,
they gotta move on. It's a business.
They do, and I get it. I get it.
But they take 7 weeks for you to even get in after you put your own resume in. Like they got all this time, but we got to do it in 2 seconds.
I see both sides like Chanel. Yeah.